The night cracked open with the roar of unseen thunder, a pulse of raw magic tearing through the air. Elara stumbled forward, her chest heaving, as golden sparks surged beneath her skin. She whispered, "Not again," her voice breaking with fear and longing. Around her, the courtyard dissolved into chaos, stone walls quaking, torches extinguished by the storm of energy. A shadowed figure stood across from her, his face streaked with tears and betrayal, lips trembling as he said, "You were never mine to protect." The words sliced deeper than any blade, and her heart clenched with unbearable sorrow. The ground split at her feet, glowing veins of ancient power winding outward like fire. In that single breathless moment, she felt centuries crashing down, memories not her own. She was someone else, somewhere else, bound to a love doomed to die. The figure's hand reached for her, but the storm consumed them both. The air fell silent after the storm, as though the world itself held its breath. Elara woke on damp stone, chest aching with the weight of memories that weren't hers. She whispered, "Whose life did I just live?" Her hands glowed faintly, fading into trembling fingers. Around her lay the wreckage, fragments of torches still smoking, walls cracked with unnatural fissures. Crow called from above, breaking the heavy quiet, and her heart lurched. She remembered a man's face streaked with tears, his words echoing, "You were never mine to protect." That voice clung to her soul, both familiar and foreign. She pressed her hand to the ground, but the warmth of the power had vanished. It left only emptiness, like a ghost retreating back into shadows. She closed her eyes, afraid of what waking meant. Elara staggered to her feet, limbs unsteady, her vision blurring between past and present. Shadows stretched across the broken courtyard, and for a moment she saw not ruins but a palace shining with gold. She gasped, this place was alive. The vision faded, leaving her clutching her head as echoes rang in her mind. A memory of laughter, of a hand brushing hers, of a kiss beneath a blazing sky. She shivered, confusion burning through her veins. Was she haunted or reborn? The air smelled of ashes, not roses, and it hurt. She turned to the fractured wall where the figure had stood, but only emptiness remained. Still, her chest carried his sorrow, heavy and eternal. She whispered, "I know you," though no one answered. A sudden chill swept the ruins, carrying whispers that made her skin crawl. Elara wrapped her arms around herself, gown fluttering in the wind. The shadows of the courtyard deepened, twisting unnaturally. She heard the faint echo of her name, spoken like a lover's sigh, yet edged with menace. Elara. The voice coiled through the air, rich and cruel. Her breath caught. She spun, but no one stood there. Panic warred with curiosity, and her legs locked in place. The unseen presence lingered, cold and invasive, as if watching her soul. She whispered, "Show yourself." The silence answered with a mocking stillness, the ruins now darker than before. Elara fled toward the edge of the courtyard, her feet scraping stone, breath ragged. The voice followed, taunting in silence, a ghost wrapped in memory. She reached the gates, finding them broken and bent as though crushed by unseen power. Beyond, the forest loomed, black and endless. She pressed a hand against the cold metal, her body trembling. "What am I running from?" she whispered, "or back to?" A flicker of movement caught her eye, a silhouette at the forest's edge. She froze. The figure was tall, cloaked, unmoving, watching. Her chest tightened, heat racing through her veins. She knew that presence, though fear swore otherwise. A whisper in her heart said, "The past has found you." Morning mist clung to the broken courtyard as Elara leaned against the gate, her breath uneven. The cloaked figure had vanished into the forest, leaving only dread and longing behind. She whispered, "Why do I know you?" Her hand trembled, the glow gone but the ache of recognition sharp. The world felt heavier now, as if every shadow carried memory. The faint cry of crows circled overhead, and she remembered flashes of a crown, a throne, and a face drenched in sorrow. Her heart throbbed with echoes of a life stolen from her. She pressed her palm to her chest, whispering, "I am not who I was," yet doubt stung every word. The silence mocked her claim, and the weight of destiny pressed closer, an unseen chain tightening around her soul. Elara wandered from the ruins into the forest, damp leaves crunching beneath her steps. Each tree whispered with the weight of forgotten time. She murmured, "This place knows me," though she had never set foot here before. A flicker of golden light sparked at her fingertips, then died like a reluctant flame. The forest was both sanctuary and threat, and she felt unseen eyes watching. Memories teased her. Laughter in a garden, a lover's kiss, betrayal beneath moonlight. Her chest burned as if she had lived them all before. She leaned on a tree, gripping its rough bark, whispering, "Am I cursed or chosen?" The wind carried no answer, only the shiver of leaves. Her pulse quickened with the dread of being both haunted and hunted. The silence broke when a cloaked man emerged from the shadows, his presence sharp as a blade. His eyes, dark as midnight, locked on Elara with recognition. He spoke, voice low and steady, "You should not be here." She froze, her heart racing, the memory of his tear-streaked face, igniting pain she could not explain. "You know me," she whispered, desperate. He shook his head, lips pressed tight, yet his gaze betrayed torment. He stepped closer, cloak brushing leaves, and for a moment she saw another lifetime in his eyes. Fear and longing clashed within her, and the air between them trembled. Her voice cracked, "Why do I feel you in my bones?" He turned away, silent, but his fists trembled with unspoken truth. The man's silence was heavier than words, but Elara pressed forward. Her hand lifted, trembling, reaching toward him. "Tell me," she pleaded, "why does my heart remember you?" His jaw tightened, and his eyes glistened with the weight of memory. He whispered finally, "Because you are hers, and she is you." The words pierced her, shattering the fragile line between now and then. Her vision blurred with fragments of another life. Dances in candlelit halls, hands entwined in forbidden vows, a kiss stolen beneath blood-red skies. She staggered back, clutching her chest, the truth burning like fire. "No," she gasped, but her voice betrayed fear and desire entwined. He turned from her, cloak whipping in the wind, as if fleeing the truth he had unleashed. Clearing fell silent, save for Elara's ragged breaths. She sank to her knees, clutching the earth, her gown stained with dew and dirt. "I am her," she whispered, the truth sinking like a blade. The man halted at the edge of shadows, his back rigid, voice heavy. "If you accept it, you will suffer her fate." His words struck like prophecy. Elara raised her gaze, tears streaking her cheeks, heart pounding with defiance and terror. "Then let me suffer," she said, but not in silence. The forest seemed to respond, a gust tearing through branches, scattering leaves like sparks. The man closed his eyes, fighting the pull of memory and duty. Between them hung a truth too dangerous to hold, yet too sacred to deny. The forest deepened into silence as Elara followed Kael, her steps quick to match his. She demanded, "Why do you hide the truth from me?" He stopped abruptly, shadows cutting his face into hard lines. His voice was sharp, "Because knowing will destroy you." Her chest ached, the memory of his tears still fresh. She whispered, "It already has." Kael's hands clenched, his eyes narrowing as if torn between confession and denial. The air grew heavy, filled with secrets pressing to be spoken. He turned away, but his silence screamed louder than word. Elara felt betrayal drip through her veins, bitter and hot. A rustle in the undergrowth shattered the standoff, and a figure stepped from the gloom. Finn, his grin unsteady, tried to lighten the tension. "Seems I always arrive at the worst times," he joked, though his eyes betrayed unease. Elara forced a shaky smile, but Kael's glare silenced them both. Finn's voice lowered, "She deserves the truth." Kael's jaw tightened as he spat, "Truth is a curse." Elara's hands curled into fists, trembling with rage and despair. "Then curse me," she said, her voice cracking with defiance. The moment split the fragile trust between them, a fault line waiting to shatter. The ground beneath them trembled, a surge of dark energy spiraling upward. Elara gasped as a tall figure emerged. Lord Varis, his cloak black as night, eyes gleaming with cruel delight. "So," he drawled, "the princess remembers nothing." Elara froze, the title striking like thunder. Kael's sword was drawn in an instant, steel gleaming in pale light. Varis smirked, unbothered, his voice dripping with poison. "You cannot protect her from me. You failed before, and you'll fail again." Elara's breath caught, fragments of memory flashing, chains, fire, his face watching her fall. Terror and betrayal consumed her. Varis' laughter rolled like thunder, shaking the trees. Elara shouted, "What did you do to me?" He circled her slowly, voice, velvet, and venom. "I freed you from a life of chains," he sneered, "only to watch you shatter again." Kael lunged, sword striking against Varis' conjured shield, sparks flying in the dusk. Finn dragged Elara back, his grip firm, whispering, "You can't fight him yet." Her body shook with rage and fear, her memories clawing to the surface. She saw herself in a throne room, fire swallowing everything. Her scream tore through the night, a sound of grief and recognition. The clash ended in silence as Varis raised his hand, dark power rippling outward. Kael staggered, blade lowered, his face pale with strain. Elara broke free from Finn, stepping forward despite trembling legs. "You cannot have me," she declared, though her voice shook. Varis' smirk deepened. "You've always been mine," he whispered, his eyes burning with obsession. Elara felt the words sink into her bones. A chain of memory and fate. Kael's voice broke the spell, shouting, "Run!" But her heart faltered, torn between love, fear, and destiny. For the first time, she realized betrayal might not come only from her enemy. Night descended, draping the forest in silver shadows. A fire burned low between them, casting Elara's face in gold and crimson. She sat curled against a log, gown tattered, but her gaze fixed on Kael. His silence was heavy, his hands tightening around the hilt of his sword, resting by his side. "Why do you keep me near if I am only a burden?" she asked softly. He looked at her, eyes dark with secrets he couldn't voice. His answer came rough, "Because I would rather burn beside you than leave you to the dark." Her chest tightened, the words more dangerous than any blade. Between them lay fear, but also a tenderness neither dared name. The fire crackled as silence stretched. Elara reached out, fingertips brushing the scar on Kael's hand. His breath caught, eyes snapping to hers. "You've carried this pain alone," she whispered, "but I feel it too." He pulled back as if burned, shaking his head. "Don't," he said, voice raw. Yet her touch lingered, pulling him closer with invisible threads. Memories tugged at her heart, his hand clasping hers in a ballroom long gone, a kiss hidden in shadows. The air thickened with longing, unspoken and forbidden. Elara murmured, "You were my protector, but also my undoing." Kael turned away, but his silence screamed the truth neither could deny. A cold wind swept the camp, scattering embers into the night. Elara wrapped her arms around herself, whispering, "I remember pieces of us. Before." Kael froze, his jaw tightening. "Those memories will kill you," he warned, but his voice trembled. She leaned closer, her eyes shimmering. "Or save me," she said, her lips close enough to steal his breath. His hand hovered at her cheek, fingers trembling, but he stopped short. He whispered, "If I cross this line, neither of us will return." The tension broke into silence so thick it weighed on her chest. She whispered, "Then cross it." But Kael withdrew, leaving the firelight to swallow his expression. Sleep eluded Elara as she lay near the dying fire, shadows dancing across her face. A whisper stirred the night, not Kael's but a darker presence. "You cannot bind him without breaking yourself." Varis' voice slid through her mind like smoke. She sat upright, clutching her chest. Kael stirred, eyes sharp, sword half drawn. "What is it?" he asked. Her breath hitched. He's here in my head. Kael moved closer, his presence steady, grounding her against the storm. You are stronger than his lies, he said firmly, though fear hid in his tone. Her hand trembled as she reached for him, desperate for something real. The forest grew restless, branches swaying, though no wind stirred. Elara's voice was barely a whisper. He won't let me go. Kael stepped closer, his hand finally brushing her cheek, rough and gentle at once. Then I'll fight him for you, he vowed. Her eyes burned with tears as she whispered, and if fighting him means losing me? His lips tightened, but his hand did not move away. Then I will lose myself before I lose you. The words carved themselves into her heart, dangerous and beautiful. For the first time, Elara leaned into his touch, the forbidden bond, no longer denied but sealed in silence. The night stretched cold as Elara and Kael reached the ruins of an ancient temple, half buried in the forest. The stones hummed faintly, alive with old power. Elara whispered, "Why does this place feel like home?" Kael's face tightened, shadows hiding his unease. "Because it was," he said bitterly. Her pulse quickened as flashes of memory pierced her, herself crowned in gold, kneeling at the altar, Kael by her side, his gaze filled with devotion. But behind him had stood another, Varis, his eyes burning with hunger. Her breath hitched, and she staggered back, pressing her hand to her chest. "No," she whispered, "not him." Kael's silence was an answer sharper than any blade. Elara's knees buckled as she collapsed onto the cracked stone floor. Memories surged, Varis whispering promises, her hand in his, her crown gleaming with firelight. Tears spilled as she gasped, "I loved him once." Kael flinched as if struck, his sword hand trembling. "You didn't know," he said, but his voice cracked with sorrow. Elara shook her head violently. "I chose him." The words shattered the fragile bond between them, each syllable heavy with betrayal. Kael's eyes glistened, pain carved into his features, but he remained silent. The truth, ugly and undeniable, had cut them both open. The temple walls shook as Varis stepped from the shadows, his voice rich with cruel amusement. Finally she remembers. Elara's body trembled, eyes wide with both longing and terror. "Why did I ever love you?" she demanded. He smirked, circling her slowly. "Because I gave you what he could not, power." Kael lunged forward, blade raised, but Varis caught it with one hand, dark energy swallowing steel. Elara cried out, torn between fury and grief, as memories clawed her mind. Varis' lips pressed to hers, his betrayal hidden beneath passion. Her scream cracked the silence, echoing through stone and night. Elara staggered to her feet, fury burning through grief. "You destroyed me," she shouted, voice trembling with rage. Varis smiled, eyes gleaming like a predator's. "I freed you from weakness," he purred. Kael fought to wrench his blade free, his face contorted with strain, but Varis' hold was unbreakable. Elara's hands ignited with golden sparks, her power screaming for release. Kael's eyes widened as he cried, "Elara, don't!" Hell twist it? But her heart pulsed with defiance, drowning out reason. "No more lies," she spat, raising her hand toward Varis. For the first time her magic surged without restraint, shaking the temple walls. The temple collapsed around them, stones cracking under the force of unleashed power. Elara screamed as golden energy tore free, blinding in its intensity. Varis staggered but laughed, his cloak whipping in the chaos. "You cannot kill me," he taunted, "for you are bound to me." The words froze her blood, but Kael's voice cut through the storm. "She is not yours." He wrenched his sword free, steel gleaming with defiance. Elara's heart broke as she realized the truth. Her past love chained her to Varis, but her present bound her to Kael. Tears and sparks mingled as she whispered, "Then let fate choose." The storm raged as the temple's remains crumbled into dust, lightning tearing across the sky. Elara stumbled into the clearing, her golden light sparking uncontrollably. Kael caught her arm, his grip strong yet desperate. "You must control it," he urged, though his voice cracked with fear. She gasped. It's stronger than me, her eyes blazing with sorrow and fire. Varis appeared across the clearing, cloak whipping like wings, his voice calm amid chaos. Because it is me, he declared, smiling with cruel certainty. Elara's chest heaved, her past and present colliding in unbearable weight. Kael lifted his blade, his stance unyielding. Then we end this now. Varis' laughter split the storm as he raised both hands, summoning black flames that consumed the air. Elara cried out, clutching her chest as the flames mirrored in her veins. You feel it, don't you? Varis taunted. The bond between us. Kael's blade struck forward, clashing against fire, sparks erupting like falling stars. She belongs to no one, Kael roared. Elara fell to her knees, golden light leaking uncontrollably, mixing with the black fire until the night pulsed in unnatural hues. Her scream echoed, a sound not of this world, her body trembling under the pull of two destinies. The forest floor cracked open, glowing fissures spreading like veins of fire. Finn stumbled into the chaos, his face pale with fear, but his voice steady. You can't do this alone, he shouted, pulling Elara to her feet. She shook her head, eyes wet with anguish. If I fail, everyone dies. Kael fought Varis with every ounce of strength, steel clashing against darkness, his body shuddering under the force. Varis sneered, he cannot win, he never could. Elara's power surged brighter, her body glowing as though consumed by her own magic. She whispered, then I'll do what she couldn't. Wind howled as Elara stepped into the center of the battlefield, golden energy bleeding from every pore. Kael shouted, no, but she raised her hands, her voice breaking. This ends with me. Varis' smirk faltered for the first time, his eyes narrowing as he felt her power eclipse his own. The air thickened, branches snapping under the weight of magic. Kael reached for her, his voice raw. Elara, don't sacrifice yourself. She turned, her gaze locking on his, tears burning trails down her face. If destiny demands it, let it take me, not you. Her light flared until night itself recoiled. The storm reached its peak, lightning striking as if the heavens themselves warred. Elara's body shook, her power spiraling out of control. Varis screamed, his dark fire clashing violently with her golden storm. Kael charged, blade cutting through the chaos, striking Varis with all his strength. Varis staggered, blood marking his lips, but his smile remained. If I fall, he whispered, she falls with me. Elara screamed, collapsing to her knees, her light flickering. Kael caught her in his arms, his voice breaking. Stay with me. What? Her eyes fluttered, torn between two worlds, her breath barely holding. The night quieted, but only for a moment. The battlefield lay in ruin, smoke curling from shattered earth. Elara clung weakly to Kael, her body trembling as her glow faded to embers. I cannot hold on, she whispered, her voice breaking. Kael's arms tightened, his eyes desperate. You are stronger than this, he urged, though fear cracked every syllable. Across the clearing, Varis staggered upright, his cloak torn, eyes burning with obsession. If she lives, it is because of me, he sneered. Elara's heart clenched with memories of their past, poisoned by betrayal. Tears streaked her face as she whispered, then, I choose not you, but him. Golden sparks flickered once more, fragile but defiant. Varis' fury erupted, black flames surging as he screamed, you were mine. Kael stood, placing himself between Elara and Varis, his sword raised though his body trembled. You will never touch her again, he vowed. Elara tried to rise, her strength waning, but her voice carried. This ends with me. Her palms glowed faintly, golden light fighting to return. Varis laughed cruelly. You cannot destroy me without destroying yourself. The truth struck like a blade, but Elara's eyes softened as they met Kael's. Then let my love decide my fate. Her words broke Kael's composure, tears shining as he gripped his sword tighter. The air ignited as Elara rose to her feet, her body glowing brighter than before. Kael reached for her, his voice raw. "Don't do this alone." She smiled through tears. "I am never alone." Their hands touched briefly, light and steel uniting. Together they faced Varis, his eyes wide as power surged between them. Elara cried out, golden storm exploding while Kael struck forward, his blade piercing the dark flames. Varis roared, his power unraveling, shadows tearing from his body. For a heartbeat the world froze, silence hanging heavy. Then the explosion of light consumed the battlefield, drowning all in brilliance. When the light faded, silence fell. Varis lay broken, his cloak smoldering, shadows dissolving into the soil. His final words rasped through bloodied lips, "Without me, you are nothing." Elara stood swaying, golden sparks still flickering, but her face calm. "Without you I am free," she whispered. Kael dropped his sword and caught her as her body weakened, his hands trembling. Finn stumbled into the clearing, eyes wide with disbelief. "Is it over?" Elara smiled faintly, tears falling. "The curse is broken." The dawn sun broke through clouds, bathing them in fragile warmth, though loss still lingered in the air. Elara rested in Kael's embrace, her eyes closing as dawn painted the sky in gold. "Every life, every pain led me back to you," she whispered, her voice trembling but sure. Kael pressed his forehead to hers, his tears falling. "And I will never let you go again." Her lips curved in a fragile smile, her glow fading into stillness. For a breath, Kael thought he had lost her, but her chest rose softly. She lived, fragile but free. Finn knelt beside them, relief flooding his face. The final silence carried peace, not despair. Above them, the sky opened wide, a promise written in light.